can thank enough for all of you volunteering activity and your time and spending it with all of us today. How's everyone? Excited yet? We just getting started. So we have, like I said, we have a really incredible, a lot of incredible talks, and this one is also including. And we're moving to the next talk that will be presented by Mikko Tamura from MapBeks. So please give a warm welcome to Mikko Tamura. Mikko, the stage is yours.
Greetings and thank you, Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team. So, just a quick backgrounder, I am Mikko Tamura and the lead advocate of MapBeks, and I have been contributing to OSM for 7 years. I have worked in the most remote areas of the country and most congested urban centers, teaching volunteers how they can help by contributing to OSM. I am also a proud LGBT and HIV awareness advocate and have been using the power of maps and geographical information systems in pushing forward social change in the Philippines. So basically, this has been the core advocacy of MapBeks. And MapBeks is an online community of volunteers advocating LGBT representation and inclusion in various mapping platforms. So currently, we have implemented a myriad of projects to support the most underrepresented and most underprivileged sectors of our country. We have launched our HIV facilities and support map for our PLHRB person or persons living with HIV siblings. We are also active contributors of adding LGBT safe spaces and OSM in partnership with Queer Map by Kiko. We have launched our MapBeks stories with the full support of mental health awareness, where anyone can share or read stories of experiences from our LGBT brothers and sisters. And lastly, we have launched our Unmapped PH campaign, aiming to map the most unmapped towns in our country. So just this June 2020, an updated analysis was released by Thinking Machines, which analyzed OSM completeness in terms of building footprints in the Philippines. So you may visit their interactive map when you search the hashtag map the gap in Google. In their web map, you will be able to see the places in our country that are well mapped and not so well mapped from the provincial level up to the barangay level when you zoom in to a particular location. The blue areas signify well mapped places, while the orange ones means that there is a lack of building footprints. They were also able to extract the data and create the breakdown, which is easily downloadable in CSV format on the website. According to this research, there are 24 towns in the Philippines that do not have a single building footprint in OSM. This signifies the location of more than 100,000 households, or roughly 500,000 individuals, that are in risk just because they are not visible in any mapping platform. At that time, we saw the report. We already thought that this was such a very, very, very big project to undertake by our small community of volunteers. We thought that this might take several months or even a year to accomplish, so we needed to tread carefully in implementing such a big project. Through the help of the HOT Facebook community microtrends, we were able to jumpstart our goal to map out these areas. We submitted our proposal to just map out one town in Romblon, Ferrol to be specific, as we were able to already establish connections with this town's government officials. We targeted to conduct 3 OSM trainings to various LGBT organizations, individuals, and allies in order for us to build a pool of mappers to assist us in this big endeavor. So proudly, we were able to get the grant and started out mapping our target areas. We were able to conduct 3 mapathons to target new mappers from 3 different island groups in October. We were also lucky enough to receive a small grant from a local foundation to support 2 additional towns in our country and partnered with local mapping groups to help us complete our scheduled tasks. Surprisingly, we were able to finish the target areas in just a month and was able to provide maps to the town's officials. With the strong support and love provided by our partners, we ideally opened 5 more towns for mapping. Since transportation was still restricted in Metro Manila during the height of the pandemic, we partnered with HIV and AIDS Support House in order to provide them 4 bicycles for their LGBT frontliners. So the bicycles that will be provided to our LGBT volunteers from Hash will be used to conduct community-based HIV screening, psychosocial support, and deliver life-saving medicine for those who cannot travel at these trying times. For each building drawn in the new five areas was a specific donation to the Bikes for Becks drive, which was amazingly contributed by hundreds of mappers from various AIDS service organizations and corporate mapping teams. Astoundingly, we were already able to provide three bicycles out of the four through in kind donations and contributions from our mapping efforts. And just last November, we launched our hashtag UnmappedPH mapping competition where mappers from all over the country was able to draw buildings in seven more additional towns under the project. The mappers were able to closely compete and complete the task, thus opening five more towns later on. Moreover, through the mapping combination, we were also able to help map out affected towns that was ravaged by the strong typhoons like Marikina City, Rodriguez, Montalban in Rizal, Uwas, Polangi, and Buhi in Bicol region. And as of December 1, 2020, the Unmapped PH campaign has consequently been successful, pretty much opening all 24 towns and contributing to more than 162,000 buildings on OSM, with almost 800 contributors. Though we were not fully successful in tapping the LGBT community and engaging completely with mapping on OSM, but we have learned from this experience on how we can engage more people and support groups in achieving this goal for next year. The project remains to be open till next year since a lot of validation work still needs to be done, but it is indeed a big accomplishment for MapBeks to spearhead a large project such as this and bring to the light these areas that are pretty much the most remote and the most neglected towns in our country. We hope you can help our community in validating the open projects as we are planning by next year to extend more help to these communities by visiting them and supplementing them the necessary trainings to contribute more. You must search on the HOT Tasking Manager MapBeks and see all the open projects for validation. All these years, the LGBT community have been lurking in the shadows, afraid of discrimination, bullying, prejudice, and homophobia or transphobia. And we believe through MapBeks that it is high time that we stand in the spotlight in front of the international mapping community, that we are also drivers of change in this society. Our genders and orientations do not only define us, but we define who we are by how we want to contribute in this world. I would like to leave this presentation with a positive note that not all spaces are mapped by straight lines. And I thank you.
Thank you, Miko. What a wonderful presentation. And we still have a time for question and Q&A session. So please do drop your questions or comments on the chat box, and one of our volunteers will be delivered to Miko to be response. Thank you.
I do have a question for Mikko.
Yes, Joffrey. Good
Yeah, or just
morning.
Yes.
direct ask Miko. Nice.
Yes.
Okay, please, Geoffrey.
Yeah. Because Miko's project is mapping the unmapped Philippines. So, how much of Philippines is still unmapped? If you could put it like in percentages, how much work is still there to do for you?
Actually, when we received the report by Thinking Machines in June 2020, it was more or less around 60% still, not unmapped. It's unmapped, okay? So pretty much I am not still aware the impact of how much we were able to contribute. But looking at what the numbers from what was reported in June, pretty much I guess there are still a lot of towns that are still unmapped, and we would really want to push forward as well to uh, giving attention to these areas that are not that much shining or not much in that spotlight. So that is one of our advocacies as well, is to really aid or support these not so famous towns or not so mapped towns, so that they can have that knowledge of OpenStreetMap and that technology, and really be with them, and if possible, if possibly being able to train them more on how to get uh, places or landmarks for their towns and contribute more on OpenStreetMap. Joffrey, thank you.
Thank you, Miko. Is is there any question for Miko? We have one from Dan Joseph. What about teaching people to access and use the data, not just map? That's the
uh,
question.
Actually, that would be the real core of the Unmapped PH, Dan. And thank you for that very wonderful question. We actually teach LGBT organizations, allies, and individuals to learn how to map for now. But eventually, when the pandemic goes down, or when we, because these areas that we have been you have been mapping are really really remote areas that it's very difficult for them to access to be online. So maybe when the pandemic goes down or when it's all over, we would really want to teach the local government units or officials, or members of the local government, to how to learn how to use the data. But pretty much when we do the trainings, we also include some demonstrations on how they could really download the data for their area. So for one example was what I was able to share in one of the slides is maps that were provided by the local government unit. It was given to them and was made by a local mapper in their area. So it's really amazing that how these data that we were able to generate is able to empower as well these really really remote communities. So thank you very much, Dan, for that nice question. Yeah. So hello everything. Sorry I wasn't able to do the presentation live. It's very very early in my part of the country. So just kidding.
No worries, Miko. The pre-recorded the video, it's really great presentation. Well done. Is there anyone still have a time to discuss with Miko about the wonderful job that he's done?
Harry, you're on mute.
Yeah, yeah. You reading my lips. So 1 more minute. We waiting.
Okay.
Uh, and then I also want to remind all of you, the participants, not only the question. If you have any comments or appreciations, all welcome to Miko and all the speakers. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, by the way, we were also able to create a map swipe project with the help of Joffrey. So maybe possibly by next year, we'll be targeting more large areas or larger areas of the most unmapped provinces in this case. So we really want to focus on the most unmapped and remote areas, because similarly with our community at the LGBT community, this is has been the experience that we would want to be there as well for those other unprivileged and underrepresented communities.
Agree. And that's the information from Miko. So everyone, please, if you're interested or want to talk more to him, please contact directly to Miko. And yep, thank you, Miko, for the presentation. And It's really appreciate, and it's really wonderful. And we move on to the next interesting